Racist cops handcuff black male general, his call to Pentagon destroyed their careers. The night was heavy with summer heat, the kind that clings to your skin and makes the air feel like a weighted blanket. In a quiet suburb of Washington, D.C., Lieutenant General Marcus Ellison, a decorated black officer in the U.S. Army, stepped out of his sleek black SUV. At 52, Marcus carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who'd seen battlefields, led thousands, and earned stars on his shoulders. His crisp civilian clothes, a tailored blazer, white shirt, and slacks, did little to hint at his rank, but his posture screamed authority. He was on his way to a late dinner with his wife, Elaine, at their favorite restaurant, a rare evening away from the Pentagon's relentless demands. As Marcus locked his car, the screech of tires sliced through the stillness. Blue and red lights flashed, painting the street in chaotic hues. Two police officers, young and brash, leapt from their cruiser, hands already hovering near their holsters. Officer Derek Holt, a wiry man with a buzz cut, barked, "Hands where I can see, M. Now." His partner, Officer Ryan Kessler, a stocky figure with a permanent scowl, mirrored his stance, eyes narrowed on Marcus. Marcus froze, his hands instinctively rising. His military training kicked in: stay calm, assess, de-escalate. "Officers, I'm just heading to dinner. I'm not armed, and I'm not a threat." His voice was steady, measured, the kind that had commanded troops in chaos. But Holt wasn't listening. "Turn around, face the car, now," he snapped, his tone dripping with aggression. The street was quiet, but a few neighbors peeked through curtains, their silhouettes faint against glowing windows. Marcus complied, turning slowly, his jaw tight. He knew this script too well, not as a general, but as a black man in America. "I'm a U.S. Army officer," he said, keeping his voice even. "My ID is in my wallet, left pocket. I can show you." "Shut up." Kessler growled, yanking Marcus's arms behind his back. Cold metal clicked as handcuffs snapped around his wrists, biting into his skin. Marcus winced but didn't resist. He'd faced worse: deserts, bullets, loss, but this stung differently. This was his home, his country, and yet here he was, treated like a criminal for existing. Holt smirked, leaning close. "You think you're special, huh? We got a call about a suspicious black male in this neighborhood. Matches your description." His words were laced with venom, the kind that came from prejudice, not evidence. The call, Marcus later learned, was a vague tip from a neighbor who'd seen him park and assumed he didn't belong in the upscale area. Marcus's mind raced. He thought of Elaine, waiting at the restaurant, checking her watch. He thought of his daughter, Maya, a college freshman who'd grown up hearing his stories of service, not this. He thought of the soldiers who looked to him for leadership. And he felt the weight of every black man who'd stood in his shoes, cuffed for no reason other than the color of their skin. "Officers," Marcus said, his voice low but firm, "you're making a mistake. I'm Lieutenant General Marcus Ellison, U.S. Army. I work at the Pentagon. Let me show you my credentials." Kessler laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Pentagon? Yeah, right. You're just another thug playing dress-up." He shoved Marcus against the SUV, the impact jarring his shoulder. Holt rummaged through Marcus's wallet, tossing his military ID onto the pavement like it was trash. "This don't mean nothing," he said, kicking it aside. Marcus's heart pounded, not from fear but from a simmering rage he'd learned to control long ago. He'd climbed ranks in a world that often doubted him, faced covert racism in boardrooms and overt slurs in his youth. But this? This was a violation of everything he'd fought for. Still, he stayed calm. "I'm asking you to call the Pentagon," he said. "Verify who I am. You'll regret this if you don't." Holt scoffed, but something in Marcus's tone, unwavering, authoritative, made him hesitate. Kessler, however, was undeterred. "You don't tell us what to do," he spat, tightening the cuffs until Marcus's wrists ached. They shoved him into the back of the cruiser, slamming the door. The neighbor's curtains twitched, but no one came out. Inside the cruiser, Marcus sat, his broad shoulders cramped in the tight space. The officers climbed in front, Holt muttering about teaching him a lesson. Marcus closed his eyes, breathing deeply, centering himself. He'd been in worse situations, hostile territories, life-or-death calls, but this felt personal. This wasn't just about him, it was about every person who'd been profiled, dismissed, dehumanized. At the station, they hauled Marcus to a holding area, ignoring his repeated requests to contact the Pentagon. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows. Kessler typed up a report, falsely claiming Marcus had resisted and acted suspiciously. Holt leaned against the desk, smirking. "You'll be out by morning," he said, "if you're lucky." Marcus sat on a hard bench, his cuffed hands resting on his knees. He thought of his grandfather, a Tuskegee airman who'd faced segregation in the military, and his mother, who'd marched for civil rights. Their strength flowed through him. He wouldn't let these officers break him. "I need a phone call," he said, his voice cutting through the room's hum. Kessler rolled his eyes. "You'll get your call when we say so." But Marcus's gaze didn't waver. Something about his calm intensity unnerved them. After a tense standoff, Holt tossed a phone onto the table. "One call. Make it quick." Marcus dialed a number he knew by heart, Colonel Sarah Bennett, his deputy at the Pentagon. It was late, but she picked up on the second ring. "General Ellison? Everything okay?" Her voice was sharp with concern. "Sarah," Marcus said, his tone steady despite the cuffs cutting into his wrists, "I've been detained by local police in D.C. They've refused to verify my identity. I need you to escalate this. Now." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Give me the station's number and the officers' names." Marcus relayed the details, his voice calm but commanding. Holt and Kessler exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado faltering. They hadn't expected this. Within minutes, the station's phone rang. The desk sergeant answered, his face paling as he listened. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." He hung up, turning to Holt and Kessler. "You two, in my office. Now." Marcus sat back, watching the chaos unfold. The call had gone straight to the Pentagon's top brass, who'd contacted the police chief. Within an hour, a black sedan pulled up outside, and a colonel in full-dress uniform stormed into the station. It was Colonel Bennett, flanked by 2 military police officers. Her presence was electric, her eyes blazing as she demanded, "Where is Lieutenant General Ellison?" Holt and Kessler stammered, their confidence crumbling. The desk sergeant uncuffed Marcus, muttering apologies. Marcus stood, rubbing his wrists, his expression unreadable. "You made a mistake," he said quietly to the officers. "But it's not too late to learn from it." The fallout was swift. By morning, the story had hit the news: decorated black general wrongfully detained by police. Body cam footage, obtained by a local reporter, showed Holt and Kessler's aggressive behavior and dismissive remarks. The public outcry was deafening. Protests erupted outside the station, with chants of "Justice for Ellison" echoing through the streets. Social media exploded, with hashtag General Ellison trending on X. The Pentagon issued a statement condemning the officers' actions, and the Department of Defense launched an investigation. Holt and Kessler were suspended without pay, their careers unraveling as evidence of prior misconduct surfaced. Both had histories of racial profiling, buried by a department that had looked the other way. This time, the spotlight was too bright. Marcus returned to work the next day, his head high. At the Pentagon, colleagues greeted him with quiet nods of respect. Elaine, his rock, stood by his side, her eyes fierce with pride. Maya, his daughter, posted a heartfelt message on X: "My dad's a hero, not just in uniform but every day. He stood tall when they tried to tear him down. #General Ellison. In the weeks that followed, Marcus used his platform to speak out. He met with community leaders, advocating for police reform and accountability. He shared his story at a national conference, his voice steady as he said, "This isn't about me. It's about the countless others who don't have a Pentagon to call. We fight for them." Holt and Kessler faced disciplinary hearings. The evidence was damning: body cam footage, witness statements, and Marcus's unimpeachable record. Both officers were fired, their badges stripped. The department issued a public apology, and the police chief announced new training programs on bias and de-escalation, spurred by Marcus's case. Marcus didn't gloat. Instead, he invited the officers to a private meeting. Against his lawyer's advice, he sat across from them, no uniforms, no cuffs, just 3 men in a room. "I don't hate you," he told them. "But you need to understand the harm you caused, not just to me, but to everyone who's been in my place. Change starts with you." Holt broke down, apologizing through tears. Kessler remained silent, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of shame. Marcus didn't need their remorse, he needed their accountability. He walked away, hoping his words had planted a seed. Months later, Marcus stood at a community event, a microphone in hand. The crowd was diverse: black, white, young, old, all gathered to honor his courage. "Kindness isn't weakness," he said. "It's the strength to see someone's humanity, even when they've denied yours. Let's build a world where no one's judged by their skin, but by their actions." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus smiled, his heart full. He'd turned pain into purpose, a single call to the Pentagon sparking a ripple of change. His story wasn't just his, it was a beacon for justice, a reminder that standing tall could shift the world. Wow, what a powerful story of resilience and redemption. If Marcus's courage moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Stories for more tales that uplift and inspire. Share this video to spread the message of justice and kindness. Let's keep the conversation going. Join our community today.